Hey everyone, welcome once again to another HBAR Foundry Town Hall. We are a collective of builders, marketers, business, technicians in the Hedera ecosystem. Super excited today. My passion, eat, sleep, game, repeat. We're going to be talking about Web3 gaming on Hedera today. And we've got a few special guests. Let me go and introduce everybody as we jump here on. We have Phil and Justin from DragmaLabs. You guys wave.
Hey.
How are you guys doing?
Doing great, thank you. Good to be here.
Awesome. And we have Michael Kantor from Kiloscribe, Tierbot, you name it, he's all over the place. Kantor codes. So how you doing, Michael?
Doing well, thanks.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. I'm super excited. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, gaming in general, but specifically Web3 gaming. I built a whole company around it, and I'm excited to chat with you folks who are kind of leading the charge in the Hedera ecosystem when it comes to Web3 gaming. First, why don't we hop over to the DragmaLabs team? I want to share your website, but I want you to feel free to actually, Phil, if you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about DragmaLabs, what you guys are doing, how you're using Hedera, and then maybe Justin can hop in and chat a little bit about one of the games that's been getting pretty popular.
Yeah, absolutely. Delighted to be here. Thank you for the invite again. That's really cool. Dragma.io, 4 friends started this up. Me, Justin, Ethan, and Sai from Hidden Dragons. We started up really broad. We had this launchpad, marketplace, gaming, gallery. It's really thorough, really efficient. We had a couple lunches also. We've been running this for 18 months. And we've been having really lots of fun. And fun is a word that I'll be using oftenly in this presentation because we've pivoted, like many entrepreneurs out here. We've pivoted into something that we all knew, all know, and all vibe with earlier on, and that is gaming. And we have our own baby now, which is called Rocket Team Racing, and we couldn't be prouder to have it. It's still in beta phase, but absolutely fun, competitive, and really cool product to be having multiplayer too.
Well, so tell me a little bit about this. First of all, how are you using Hedera? Like, we got the Hedera logo all over the place. We got all kinds of fun community stuff we're doing. Every Wednesday, we've got a game that we play. Yeah. But how are you incorporating Hedera into Rocket Team Racing?
That's a juicy ball I will be throwing to my colleague, Justin.
Yeah, awesome. I can jump into that. So yeah, there's a number of different levels to this, really. Originally, it kind of all started off with the communities on Hedera and everyone, with their own PFP and collection and, exploring the spaces. And we kind of created these kind of like partnerships early on to kind of like have a common bridge between the different communities and really kind of push for this kind of sense of communify. We kind of termed it back then, just kind of bridging communities on Hedera to begin with. And kind of out of that, we supported launches, we supported some tech and kind of helping people mint their NFT collections in the early days before there were any sites where you can do that. Obviously, there's plenty out there now. And Michael's, a core example of that. And but it was building scripts and learning the tech and getting people up and running and helping where we could. And we built some really kind of strong relationships there. So a lot of this came from those relationships. And as time went on, the idea for the game came through, and we started kind of pulling in those characters from different communities into the game, actually kind of embodying them in a 3D character, which you could then get in a cart and race on track against other communities. And then suddenly you're having rivalries on the tracks. So Hedera kind of brought those communities together. But then also in the game itself, we're using Hedera at the moment for an early access gating. So it's NFT gated at the moment. You head over to any marketplace. We've got links to Centex here for founders tokens. So holding either of these will give you early access whilst we're in development. You can jump in on Discord, come and have a chat with us. We have Rocket Hour every Wednesday, and you can come and play, throw feature requests in, bug reports, and it kind of like gives you that sense of kind of being part of it early on. So once you have that, jump in, and that's where we are at the moment with Hedera. We've got plans with using HCS as well, and we can get into the details of that later, and it has crossovers with some work Michael's working on as well. So yeah, they're the points at the moment.
So you said that. So first of all, I just want to reiterate, what the process here. If you want to play the game, you go and buy one of these tokens. Right now, you can get them on Centex. Either one of these will do, right? Either one of these founders tokens will work. You can go head over to Centex. You can buy it. There's a number of them up for sale there that you can grab. And then you download the client. And once you download the client, you use Wallet Connect to connect to the game. So after the game is started, it'll have like connect your wallet. You'll connect it using Wallet Connect. And then once you're connected, the game will recognize that you're holding one of those tokens, and then you're in the game. You're playing. So you're using it as a token gating mechanism.
Yes.
Also as a community builder. The NFT itself is a community builder token, as people would expect NFTs to be. But why don't we look a little bit at a little bit of the gameplay here? So this is us playing a couple weeks ago, I think it is, and yeah, I mean, it is legitimately 100% playable, competitive game. You're running into things, getting blocked all over the place, getting hit with weapons. Look at that! I just got hit with a rocket. It is an intense game. You start learning the lines and figuring out like how to hit the corners correctly, how to avoid obstacles, how to capture boxes as they appear. Watch out for falling blocks. It's pretty wild, and I'm playing right now as Rocket. But you were saying, Michael, that there are other characters you can play from the community. What other characters do we have so far in the game?
Yeah, so I mean, we've got Rocket as our kind of main IP, I guess. He's the face of Rocket Team Racing, but kind of beyond that as well, just as our kind of representative of our fun and gaming studio and Communify. So he'll make appearances in many places outside the game as well. And within this as well, we've got a lot of other kind of community members that are kind of working with us. And we've got a number of characters that are kind of part of, I guess, the lore of the game. We've got Scruffy Beard, who's in there as like an arch nemesis to Rocket, and we might have some love interests there as well who make appearances. And we want to kind of have a groundwork there where we can start building up this lore and story, and some backings behind each of the characters rather than they're just plain racing character. And then Phil, I don't know if you want to kind of like run through some of the community members that we've kind of been embodying into the game as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what we want, and I'll never stop saying it, is connecting and sharing those worlds that we have together, especially through communities. And we have a couple karts and racers through the game that we're going to be able to play sometime. They have been like unveiled also. So there's a Batty Hattie character coming in. There's also one with our great friend Atlantis coming up. Also one with Rooster Cartel. So it's all those communities. There's nothing beats just playing a racer or a character that you have with your own community and just have fun with it. And yeah, that's what we want. We want to connect people. We want to connect also to the game, to the fun that we have, and the product at hand that we believe to be really a great one.
Yeah, and another thing to kind of add to that is like with each of these characters that are in the game, these can all be accessible via the community's NFT as well. So when you jump into the game, if you hold one of Batty Hattie's NFTs, then this enables the cart within the game, and there'll be similar things across the different collections. So it kind of gives that extra kind of utility to these other communities and allows them to kind of expand upon their offerings that they already have, whilst having fun and also kind of giving visibility to other communities as well within the game. And obviously you have the rarity which goes with that as well. So, maybe there'll only be 10 of Golden Rocket, for example. I can't remember how many we have. We have actually issued these already. So there's a limited supply. Yep. And if you see them on track, that's rare. I mean, it's a sought after cart, which you've not been able to do before. But it kind of gives that kind of extra level of clout in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think that kind of that captures the vision of NFTs in gaming in general. I mean, we saw this with Engine Coin was doing this with in-game collectibles, where you would collect an NFT and it would actually unlock or allow for a portable item with you across games in your gaming platform. And so here what you're saying is you're coordinating with particular brands and communities to allow them to have their characters in game using NFTs as kind of the ownership proof. So if you've got a rare NFT in, say, the Grelf community, you might get the gold Grelf, right? Right now, Grelf is one of the playable characters, which is kind of fun. I think he's on his little stump, right? You might see him zoom past me here and there. It seems that whoever plays Grelf always beats me. So, but yeah, you can see right in front of me, right here.
Yeah.
There he is. So
nice races, by the way. You're doing great there.
I did okay in that last race. This one I struggle with, but at least I made it through. This is Grasslands. I think this is one of the harder ones. I know, like, was it Cloud?
Right. Yeah, Cloud City.
Cloud City.
Yeah.
It's kind of the Rainbow Road of the game, which is hard in its own technical right. This one, I just feel like I get lost everywhere. And I think it was halfway through this match I realized that, like, oh, you mean if I just stay between the two arrows next to the grass, I'll come out the other side in a place that I'll know. So, like, up here, you'll see the two arrows pointing me in the right direction. As long as I follow the arrows, I do okay. I didn't realize it the first time. I went in the grass and just like totally got lost and went off into nowhere. Grassland, super fun.
Grasslands is definitely one of the tougher tracks out there, and you'll probably notice a lot of snails lying around. And being in the Hedera community, if you've been there long enough, you will know of a few rugs that have been around. So we need some obstacles, and we have obstacles in life and in Hedera, and we've kind of embodied these subtly around the maps as well. So if you know your Hedera history, you'll have a few laughs as you're heading around.
Well, that's awesome. You're actually building the Hedera lore into the lore of the game.
Exactly.
That's what we do.
I love it. Well, and this is all part of what you had mentioned earlier, right, Phil, which was, this is about fun. Tell us a little bit about your company. This is DragmaLabs. I mean, there's a bunch of different directions you could have taken with this project, right? You could have gone and done like a straight up token sell or an NFT sell and raised a bunch of money and built a formal team.
Yes.
Like, what's the status of the project? What are your guys's, guiding stars here?
Yeah, we want to take our time, no matter where we want to go. The first and foremost thing that we're building is, I believe, it's culture through fun. Also, we have this vision, and through our team meetings, it's always adamant, that we keep our focus on the game because it's the main motor of everything that we've been crafting in the last year and a half, I would say. Albeit the venture that we have with the Launchpad and website, which is, it's a great experience, but we focused our efforts right now on the game. And I think it's really about culture. Where we're going afterwards with this, we have a couple ideas and ecosystems we want to dabble into. But it really goes to show that, we want to put our efforts in the game, especially getting it out of beta. And just to have fun, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, the game is highly playable and replayable. This is not like a proof of concept here. This is like every Wednesday we can get together with a group of friends and fill up 2 lobbies and like just go at it. And so I feel like it's in a really good spot. Now, obviously there are always things that we're going to be polishing. We've talked about controller support, and we've talked about, can we drift? Can we jump? All these other things. And I know you guys have a really healthy community in Discord for accepting that kind of feedback and maybe even doing some tweaks and some play testing. Tell us about your Discord. As a matter of fact, maybe if we can get that to Tony, we can probably even pop that up so everybody can see how to get to there in Discord. But tell us a little about your Discord community and some of those community members, how active it is.
Yes, of course. Justin, if you want to go.
So every Wednesday we're on, and if we can get the link up there, that would be great, because jumping in on some of the lobbies, we all jump in one of the voice channels there and just kind of go at it. And it's a lot of fun. Nothing's taken too seriously, and but there's a competitive edge to it all, and you want to have your name at the top of the leaderboard. So there's a lot of that. But we have some great regulars who are coming back and really helping us kind of like craft and hone the maps, and they're there discovering new shortcuts that we didn't even realize existed. And, you know, it's like, how did you get that time? You know, and then they take us through and like, well, you know, follow me through here, and you're discovering new things about a game that you built. I was like, okay, this is brilliant. This is what we wanted. But the community is great, and you know, they love it's been part of something as well, you know, and being able to kind of like,
Right.
you know, add to it and contribute, and but also be there and having fun at the same time, and you know, ultimately kind of getting your items in there, like embodiment of your, you know, involvement in the game as well, whether that be a cart or an obstacle in the game. You know, we can really work with you, kind of like to kind of create these things so you actually feel a part of the game, rather than just being, you know, maybe a little name on the credits at the end as a beta tester. You can actually have something in the game that you can tell your mates, like, yeah, look, that's my contribution there. So that's really possible with, you know, with the space that we have and the community that we have.
So are you in that phase where you're taking those kind of engagements, the community engagements, to start getting models in the game?
Yeah, we've worked with a few communities, especially like with the partners over the last year and a half. So we have a lot of these that kind of already lined up. And because we're still in an early access, we've got a public launch, which is coming up. So I guess at the moment, with the carts that we have at the moment, that will be our lineup for public. But once we've got that going, and we get some kind of more interest in the public eye, for sure, we want to kind of start kind of building out and bridging other communities and maybe other networks as well, you know, bringing in, you know, some other communities outside of the Hedera space to bring more eyes to Hedera itself, and maybe kind of tying with some other games out there as well that kind of have more eyes as well. So that will be the next stages really, and building traction and creating a larger bubble.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, again, the sense I get when I'm in this community is like, anytime somebody's down to play a game, they just blast it in Discord and a game started. Like, it really is about fun. It really is about the community getting involved. And then the feedback channel makes sense. We sometimes add feedback, and we hear, the cool thing is, like, we're hearing back from you guys directly, right? You guys are as a developer of this project. So when we say stuff like, hey, we want to add jump, you're like, yeah, that sounds like a cool feature, but it also changes the dynamics of like how physics works in the game, and it's a lot more complicated than it sounds. And then we're like, oh, okay, so like they've considered this, and we're kind of getting direct. There's a really good feedback loop into the community, in addition to just the community talking to you guys. So you guys giving that feedback back to the community. So we go, okay, we understand why jump isn't there yet, right? Maybe that'll be a future feature as we do some refactoring and stuff like that. So it is really cool to see that cycle of communication between the community and you guys, the developing team. So that's been really nice. So Justin, before we started the town hall, you were talking a bit about building kind of a top-down version of this game, and maybe collaborating with Michael, and that'll be really good introduction into what Michael's working on. But tell me about what your thoughts are on that top-down version.
Yeah, so it's kind of proof of concepts in the space, because in this world there's a lot of tech demos, and we didn't want Rocket Team Racing to be just a tech demo. We wanted it to be a game first that happened to be using some tech that might be a demo, but you wouldn't know from the front end, and wanted to present it that way as well. But there are a lot of things that are kind of happening in the space that move very fast, that maybe Rocket Team Racing is, you know, sometimes too big to just try something out. So having like a smaller version of the game that you can just iterate on quickly is a really useful place to kind of like test out new technology and innovate without having to worry about breaking whole loads of code that you might have spent a year writing. So building out like a simplified version of the game, you know, keeping some of the IP there, and a bit of alpha. I guess this is all a bit of alpha really, but it's kind of like something that we're kind of working on behind the scenes to kind of really try out these new pieces of tech, and especially in the realms of what Hashgraph Online, the group have been kind of working on. There's some new standards on the consensus service on HCS, and ways in which you can store data and read it, and trying to build that into the game to kind of open it up to maybe a more decentralized way of kind of storing code, but also storing state and so on. But I don't want to kind of overshadow what Michael's going to be talking about here. But you'll see more of this in the future. But Michael's definitely the one to talk about in this realm. So
the simplified version of the game it's a web game, right? That you're building. Yeah, so it's very much a JavaScript web-based version, maybe like if you think about micro machines, that kind of vibe, and basically taking the top-down approach to Rocket Team Racing, where you'll be basically time trials, maybe multiplayer in a future version. We don't know at the moment, but they're definitely just kind of like have fun, play around, but also kind of hooked up to your traditional, Wallet Connect for keeping track of leaderboards and writing your state back to the network. So yeah, it's I haven't got kind of any gameplay footage at the moment that I can kind of throw up. But if you jump into our Discord, I'm sure that you can get some early alpha on that when we push that one forward. Well, and on that note, why don't we go ahead and just jump over to Michael, because I want to show what you've been working on. And this is exactly what Justin's talking about, is this idea of inscribing your game to Hedera using the standards that you've developed. Why don't you give us a quick introduction into KiloScribe, into the HCS standards? Tell us what's going on.
Thanks, Ken. And I really do love all the demos and gameplay from Rocket Team Racing. I think it's just incredible what you guys have done with the resources that you've got. I know that building a game of that caliber is expensive, time consuming, and it's just an overall incredible feat. With KiloScribe, it's something that we announced actually during the hackathon. It's our newest website, and it's the new home for inscriptions that we've put together. If you used our tooling before, it was on tier.bot/inscribe, but we really wanted to just provide a central place where people can go and effortlessly inscribe and retrieve their on-graph files on Hedera. And we thought that needed its own website because there's a lot more that we want to do, and we just it'll make more sense as we get further along on that journey. So this is a new website. It's on a whole new tech stack, and it was shipped entirely during the hackathon. Actually, we delivered a few things. So it was kiloscribe.com, the new HCS3 standard, 2 open source repositories, the new HCS3 standard, and 2 demo games. This is just a breakdown of the website itself. It talks a lot about hashnals, as you can see. And if you actually scroll down a little bit to this section here, the explore the hashnal universe, is actually a bit of hashnalception here. Because if you inspect element, the HTML that's loading there is actually a hashnal itself that's being embedded through the tierbot CDN. So all that content that's moving around, that entire thing is a hashnal. And inside of it, it's loading hashnals, like hundreds of hashnals through the tierbot numbers API. And then there's a button where you can mint it as a hashnal itself and put it in your wallet. So there's like 3 layers of hashnalception that's going on in this little WYSIWYG that we just wanted to demonstrate to people, like, hey, this is one of the things that you can do with hashnals, is you can create these experiences, and that's what I'm calling them. And then you can embed them anywhere you want on the internet, all without owning a server. And this thing itself, like if you actually copy the CDN link, you can share it directly to somebody in full screen, and it could be like a landing page, a website experience, whatever it is. And that's just an example of something that you can do. It was built pre-recursion, and it would be a lot more efficient using recursion, actually. The other big thing is the gaming homepage, which actually covers all the stuff that we open sourced and built out during the hackathon. So it is a bit of a new direction for us. And one of the things I want to say is that I'm actually not a game developer at all myself. So any tooling here, things like that are more just examples to give other developers, because I'm sure they can build better things than I can. The last time I had built a game was like in 2014, and that was with Swift on iOS. So it was a whole different paradigm. So it's the first time I'd ever done anything with JavaScript was a month or two ago, just testing out this stuff. So this is our new gaming hub. It covers the HCS3 recursion SDK. It gives you all these helpful code snippets. Like if you click through game integration SDK code and boilerplate HTML, these are all snippets of code that you can actually copy and play around with. The SDK code is actually injected live to the latest version that's published. So if you're developing, you want to make sure, oh, I've got the latest version of the SDK because it's very much in flux right now. That's how you get it. You just come to this page and you click copy, and it'll give you the latest UMD version that you can use inside of your HTML hash nodes. And even the live demo that's there is actually a hash node itself, similar to the universe, but it's the first real example of using HCS3. It might not look like much because you have like this little red block that's just moving across the screen, but it's actually super cool because it's loading two libraries, 3JS and AnimeJS, which are previously inscribed files. That's number one. And it's using that recursion SDK that's that you can copy in. But what's even cooler here is you can see Rust Wasm loaded. How do you like, what's Rust? What's Wasm? Rust is a coding language that doesn't actually work on the web by itself. And Wasm is a compiler that makes it possible to use languages like that, like compile them down to bytecode and run them in your browser. So what's actually happening in this demo is it's loading compiled Rust code, and it's using that Rust code to move the little red brick across the screen. That means that all of these libraries outside of the JavaScript ecosystem, you can now use in these HTML hash nodes, as long as you just compile it down and load it in Wasm. So those are things like Bevy, Solidity, even C#, or I think Unity dots might be compatible through HCS recursion and the Wasm loading that's just built into the library. And it's just as simple as you go and inscribe your Wasm file, and then you reference it as a script tag, and then you can go and call it like you would any other function in JavaScript. If we scroll down a little bit, the second thing that we open sourced through the hackathon was what we're calling Hashnell's Wallet Connect. It's a brand new library that's not to be confused with Wallet Connect. It's built on top of it. It's like a layer on it, just to make it even easier to use. I know that folks have kind of struggled a little bit with Wallet Connect, just setting up all the configuration. How do you keep track of wallets? How do you keep a session on? How do you make certain transactions? This basically abstracts all of that, so it's a lot easier to work with Wallet Connect, especially like in the context of a game. Like if you're an indie game developer and you've never worked with blockchains before, the last thing you want to do is go through a whole bunch of documentation and figure out what a transaction is and all this stuff. This makes it as easy as like literally just like 2 lines of code to connect your wallet and get somebody's balance. If you want to submit a message, 1 line of code. If you want to submit a transfer transaction, 1 line of code. And you copy the library in with that snippet over there on the left side into your HTML file, and then you can start executing this kind of code. So for now,
and to be clear, this is using the recursion library right here. So once you've included the recursion code in your file, then you can include this script, and now you have access to the Hashnell Wallet Connect. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Even this weekend, this library got a big upgrade where you can actually use it inside of a typical dApp with NPM, although it's not like the original idea around what this was for, but you can now, because I've realized that even with traditional dApps, something like this can be kind of useful. And you would just install that with npm add hashgraph online /Hashnell Wallet Connect. We'll add some more documentation on this page on how you would use that in a traditional
website, but it's on the GitHub already if you're a dev and you're looking at that stuff anyway. And then the last couple of things that we did is we actually shipped 2 games in this hackathon. There's 2 other ones that are featured. They're not actually built on recursion, but we wanted to feature them anyway. So the first game that we did is Hashnell Blaster. You guys might have seen that one already. It was the first example that we put out with HCS3. It's basically a arcade style shooting game. You have this little turret and you just shoot lasers across the screen. If you hit the Hashnells that are coming down, you get 20 points. If you hit the balloons, you get 10 points. If you hit a bomb, then you lose points. And if it touches you, then you lose the whole game. The last one that we did is Hashinova, which is the one that I'm actually most proud of. This game, you would think it's really easy to build. It's inspired by HBAR. It's just, you're a little blob, you eat things and you grow. If you played HBAR, that's basically the whole game, and then you go and dodge stuff as they come. Hashnell's Blaster was 1,000 lines of code. Hashinova is like 4,300 lines of code. We were building this out up until the last hour of the hackathon, just trying to get the logic right. The single hardest part is how do you make it hard enough where there's some level of competitivity in the game, and not too hard where you just start the game and all the enemies just eat you and then you lose instantly. It's built on top of the ECS framework entity component systems. It's using 3JS, Canon.js for physics, Nest.js for the GUI, and mostly just vanilla JavaScript for everything else. I think we built out the full game in about a week. If you bump into those spiky ones, you actually don't want to do that because that reduces your size every time you do it. If you consume ones that are smaller than you and you gain size, but if you bump into ones that are bigger than you, then you'll obviously lose the game. You can see that can of Coke getting really close to you. Another thing that you can do in this game is if you press the space bar, it actually pauses the game. And I hadn't told Sentex this when I was building this out because it's meant to be a surprise, but you can actually click on any Hashnell on the screen while it's paused. Oh.
Yeah, let's pause it first.
Yeah, and then it'll give you a breakdown of what that Hashnell is, and there's a little button there where you can go and purchase it on Sentex. And what? Yeah, it'll take you right to Sentex. You go purchase it, see the history,
this is crazy.
Description number. Yeah.
Wow. So we are. That's wild.
If I had enough time, I would have made it purchasable in the game because Sentex does have an API for that, but we ran out of time at the end. That's something that I want to add, is that ability where you can just buy it, see the listing price and everything while you're in there. And this only works with Hashnells. So all the Hashnells ever created, they get randomly loaded into the game as textures. And as you consume some of the Hashnells, more get loaded. There's 400 entities on the map at a given point, and there's an algorithm that we built that gets them to come close to you, so you don't have to explore the whole universe to go find something. That part was really tricky too, is how do you get them close enough to you where they're not trying to eat you, or they're not just going inside of you and you just become a massive blob in 2 seconds. It was very complicated to build this out.
But okay, and I just have to talk a little bit about ECS because I'm a nerd when it comes to software architecture. But do you want to give a quick little rundown of what ECS is and why it's appropriate for a game like this?
Sure. Yeah, I would say I'm a noob at ECS, but what it is it basically, it's more of a frame of thinking of how to develop games in a sustainable way, where it takes every entity or a type of movement that you can do and puts it into an object. And then it provides these reusable methods where those objects can constantly update the game. So every object will have like an update function. And as the game is loading, it requests an animation frame, and every entity in the screen will call update. So as a developer making a game, it makes it a lot easier to build these kinds of games out because it's less like math inside of your head, but it also runs a lot better where you can kind of scale out to have like tens of thousands of entities on the screen and not have to worry about it. It just computationally works better as well.
Right.
I know, Ken, though, you're probably more of an expert with ECS. For me, I'm still kind of getting my brain wrapped around it.
Well, and you've done an incredible job. I was actually quite amazed looking at the code. Like you wrote your own ECS library. It was pretty impressive. Yeah, I mean, ECS stands for Entity, Component, and Systems. And the idea is like in coding, you usually have, especially in object-oriented programming, you have your objects that have properties and behaviors. In ECS, we separate the behaviors from the properties. And what you do is you put your behaviors into systems that run in a loop on every game loop in order. And then you have components, which are kind of like traits, if you're familiar with Rust. The idea that you've got some composable properties. So an example of a component would be like collidable object or absorbable, right? I think that's what you have in the code. And so every entity that you create on screen is a composition of those components. And through your systems, you can filter out all of the entities by their components. You can say, show me, give me every entity that is absorbable and do this update to it. So what that means is you're not looping through every object in the game. You're filtering all the objects down just to the entities that are composed of the components that you're interested in updating. And then you only update those things. So what it allows for is for you to have huge numbers of entities without having to loop through every entity in the game. And so there's a huge efficiency gain, especially when you have lots of objects. And so in this game, there are lots of objects. I mean, we're at the point right now where it's moving. It feels like it's moving really slow, but it's only moving slow because I'm getting really big.
Yeah, exactly.
But
That's exactly.
You've got all of these objects in games.
It's because you're so big. You're actually moving very far on the screen, but it looks like you're moving slow. But if you like look at all the other entities on the screen and how they're moving in relation to you, like initially some of these are much bigger, and now they're just little specks
right
on the screen. And as you consume some of these, there's an algorithm here that only spawns enemies that are relative to your size. Which was kind of fun to build out because there was a point where the game, when we were developing this, you would get so big that all of the little entities just start swarming you because that's just how the AI system was built out. And then you'd be like, what are all these little dots just coming at you? It was just really fun to develop. And that's exactly right. Like we've got an absorbable type. We have power up types. And AI types and a whole bunch of stuff built into the code.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. And I know ECS is kind of I know it's important for my other company, Tashi, because for us, we're doing purely peer-to-peer multiplayer, and ECS actually simplifies the network layer. So when you're doing multiplayer, all the net code gets simplified if you have an ECS model, because it means you only have one place. You only have to worry about the network system when it comes to managing all of your net code for multiplayer. So I know that's why we had talked about doing that. And I know, that the Tashi team is working on a demo of multiplayer that I think is going to be more like boilerplate code to help other people figure out how to do multiplayer in the Hashnell's ecosystem as an inscribed game. So that's going to be super cool. I'm really excited about that. I mean, we just have like layer on layer of innovation happening in the last few weeks where, I mean, recursion was kind of that first forcing function, right? When you and I were first talking, I was like, wouldn't it be cool if we had recursion? You're like, that's a big lift. I don't know if we're going to get that. And then like the next day you're like, hey, by the way, I got it figured out and it's done. And I'm like, wait, what? And then you actually started building these games, and then you did Wallet Connect into the games, and then you did an ECS library, and then now DragmaLabs is going to come through and build us a little Micro Machines racing game, as one of these Hashnal games. So it's really exciting to see all of this come together. You know, it's actually kind of funny. When I invited you guys to be on this this town hall, I didn't anticipate that there was already going to be some collaboration between the two of you. I was just like, cool, we got two gaming companies, two companies that are supporting gaming in the Hedera ecosystem. Let's get them both on the town hall. And then Justin was like, oh yeah, by the way, we're probably going to build a Hashnal's version of the game. And I'm like, oh, okay, awesome. So it's really cool to see these projects come together.
That's what
Justin,
I'm really excited for.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about inscriptions real quick. So like, if I look at this leaderboard, I can see that Justin's #1 on here, right? And I want to get to that 4,100. I'm only at 2,600 points right now. Probably not happening today. Tell me a little bit how leaderboards work with Hashnals.
Yeah. So
from an inscription perspective.
Right now, they're kind of stupid a little bit, but they're made possible through that Hashnal's Wallet Connect repository. So you can see in the video that your Wallet Connect is connected and you've got your balance. That's through that Hashnal's Wallet Connect SDK that we rolled out. That pulls out your wallet, and it also enables you to submit transactions. So the way that the leaderboard is set up is essentially we've got a public topic ID, and when you're ready to go and post your score, you're submitting an HCS message to that topic ID, your score, and a nickname for your score as well. You can see there's JJ and Neil. Now, this is obviously a public topic ID, which means anybody could submit to it, and there's no verification. One of the things that we want to build out, find out how we can build out, is Rails to provide like anti-cheat. So we can combine the best of both worlds. If possible, we want to avoid having those private topic IDs because that would mean that you need like an intermediary server. But some of the ideas that we're already seeing, like with Justin's game, for example, he has a way where he can send the game data over when he submits those messages. So if somebody decides to go and submit a message to topic ID and they just put like score 100,000 or whatever, you would be able to verify from the game data, like, okay, no, that's not right. They probably cheated. Let's just take them out. So in that way, you can still use that public topic ID if you actually include all of the game data as it's happening. And I think that maybe using the Tashi consensus protocol, or maybe just developing our own thing as a separate SDK that kind of just writes it down as it's happening, would make it a lot harder to actually cheat. The other ways that you can kind of build this out is including perhaps like a video field or an image field it actually attached to the message. We had this with Snake Dash where you could go and send a screenshot and it would be under a proof field. And then you can actually go and inscribe that screenshot as a HCS1 file as well if you wanted to. But the short of it is the leaderboard is just like a fun thing that I think we still need to develop as a primitive so that these games can really work well. The goal would be that there's no centralized server.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's really cool as well, the fact that, yeah, because at the moment with the game, the Micro Machine style game, is that we're storing like your lap times and then your total lap time. So there's a very crude, do they add up and does that feel about right? Obviously you can manually, affect that. But if and when a Tashi, stream of events was able to be recorded as well, not only could you open up, proof of that actually happening, but also, ghost drivers. So you could download the replay events of the fastest lap times and have it playing in your game, knowing that that was a true, lap time that everyone can then race against. It opens up so many, new ways of kind of updating the game as
Oh,
well.
that's a great idea. Remember that there was this option back in the Mario Kart days where you had this ghost timing that you were seeing all around, where your very best lap that you had back in, wow, so that could be an itch, Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So you can have
HCS.
like a verified lap.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow, that's good.
Yeah, so it's very cool. And then, with loading in tracks as well, kind of thinking about, public topics where you could store the metadata for a track that, could be its own hashional. You can load that in and maybe even have people submit their own versions of it, the track builder, people submit to a topic, which then the game could then load in, and hot loading tracks that the community are building. There's lots of scope for this, and the great thing with it is it'll always be playable. As long as you got a mirror node running, you can run this 30 years time. You'll be able to do that. You can't do that with any game today. Try and load that in 30 years time. Are you going to be able to play it? It's going to be hard, especially multiplayer as well. Those servers won't exist. Your assets probably won't exist. Having everything on chain just like suddenly opens up a whole new type of games that could like unlock things in 50 years time. There's a lot of scope for those kind of longevity in games as well.
Yeah, I think that's actually a feature of the Web3 space in gaming that we don't often talk about. I think that's one of our goals at Tashi as well is, we're doing strictly peer-to-peer multiplayer gaming. But what that means is you can now build a game and provided that the decentralized network is still up and running and those services are still available, even if the publishers disappear, the game can continue to go on after the publishers have figured out that maybe the business model isn't the model that they want to approach, continue to go after. But it still potentially creates a revenue stream for them, right? Because if there's compensation built into the play structure, the infrastructure of that game, you could develop a game and just be like, okay, I'm going to contribute this game to the community so to continue to play, but I'm going to move on to something else, right? I'm going to go build something else. And A, the game is still playable. B, the original publisher could still technically get some revenue from that, have a revenue stream. And C, you could actually build incentive structures in there for anybody else who wants to come in and pick up the development of it and say, okay, well, the original publisher doesn't want to continue developing it because they're focusing on something else, and they're still getting money for the IP, but I'm a game developer or I have a game development studio and we love this game and we built a whole community around this game. And as a community, we want to continue to develop this game. So it creates a path that aligns incentives, financial incentives, with like the continuation of popular games, which again comes back to fun, right, Phil? If the game's fun, why not enable it to continue to grow and evolve? Yeah, forever. Absolutely. Yeah, there's so many games that have kind of, maybe you can't play it anymore because it's a multiplayer game and it requires a server infrastructure.
Yes, we've experienced that with the Xbox 360. All the memories that you had back then on Xbox Live are vanished forever because the servers are down now. So it's been 20 years or whatever. All those games that you played before, it's done now. And now with those new technologies, now it opens up the possibility of in 25 years, you're still going to be able to come back and have fun and relive those moments, right?
Yeah, so this isn't just collectibles. It isn't just communities. Like this is fundamentally changing how multiplayer games are going to work in the future. I think that's the exciting part to me about everything that's happening in Web3, everything that you guys are working on. I mean, you need the game developers. We need the infrastructure guys like Michael solving these hard problems. But I think this is what's exciting to me about Web3 gaming is that it's not just creating another economic model. Like you can think, the last 20 years has been the phase, the Web 2 has all been the phase of advertising revenue. Like, how do we do freemium games? How do we do ad revenue? It's all of these types of business models. And now what we're saying is, well, we've got a whole new way to align incentives such that the fun can continue beyond the original creators of the fun thing, which I think is a cool idea. So it feels like it's fundamentally changing how how gaming is going to at least create a fork in the road for how gaming can be developed. So I think there's going to be this whole category of Web3 games that are viable, playable, immortal games, if you will.
Absolutely
It's
agree.
fundamentally changing it.
That's right.
Very good.
Fundamentally changing it.
I love that. That's almost as great as it is as great as fun is much more scalable than scarcity, right?
Oh, that was the greatest quote ever, by the way. I tweeted that.
Yeah, you did.
I hope you don't mind.
No,
that's one that we need to actually, you know what? I'm going to put that in here. Fun is more scalable than scarcity. I'm going to put that on stream here so everybody forever will see that.
Shout out to our colleague Sai, who dropped that us 2 weeks ago.
That was awesome. So great. Well, we're in the last few minutes of this town hall. We've gone through both DragmaLabs and all the things that you guys are working on, all the exciting things that you've been working on. Michael, we've gone through Kiloscribe and Hashinals and talked about what we're doing there. In general, is there something we should be talking about in the Web3 space or the Hedera space that maybe we're not talking about right now? Any of you, feel free to chime in. Is there something in particular that we should be focusing on or talking about that we're not?
I'm going to be a broken record about this. I think I've really felt that over the last few days, over the last few years, we've approached Web3 gaming a little bit backwards. And I mean that in the fact that we've been spending literally millions and millions of dollars, sometimes tens, hundreds, into Web3 games, looking to create the next, like World of Warcraft, RuneScape, these giant, massive games of crazy fidelity and frame rates. And to me, that just doesn't add up, right? Because when you think about Web3 in gaming and you think about how the original gaming industry kind of blossomed, it didn't start with crazy graphics. It started with the opposite. It was just like pixels moving on a screen. It was games like these that are just super, super basic in theory, but they were fun and challenging. When you played Mario or Zelda, you lost like 100 times before you won once, and you got that feeling of gratification. I think that's where we need to start, because what we've actually been doing is just taking lots of capital, putting it in a closet, and then setting that closet on fire, because we're not focusing on the aspect that actually matters, which is that fun and that exciting part. And I think what we're doing here through Hashinals could be the start of that. We maybe focus on the basic stuff with gaming. Let's get in-game assets to work in the most primitive version of it and see if people actually like it first before we go and build out these humongous games. That's my 2 cents and my hope for the industry, so that we can finally target consumers in the right way.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that as well. And even just like in the hackathon, that you were mentioning earlier, Michael, and the submissions you made, there were other games there that were coming out from pet projects from, that were kind of just trying out different realms of what we could do with like 3D gaming space. And I know Tyler from Hashback was creative with the Grand Exchange for kind of like lobby rooms where you could exchange NFTs, but you're in like a RuneScape style like environment that has potential to go further. And then Tommy, or Bones as he's known online, he's built like a turn-based RPG that's using HCS, and there's appetite for indie developers to be building in the space. But right now, from our experience at DragmaLabs, the tooling and infrastructure isn't there to kind of like build on top of. We've got the early signs of it with HCS and the protocols and standards that have been built around there that we can build off of. But it's like we've got infrastructure in a lot of other areas, but the gaming space, we're kind of lacking a lot of the actual basic tooling to build on top of. How do I easily, authenticate into the game? until recently, there wasn't even a Unity wallet connect for us to kind of use. That only started earlier this year. So, there's a lot of catch up being played there, and there's not an easy route in as an indie game developer. So I think the infrastructure there, and that comes from the grassroots of just trying to build it. There's a problem, let's fix it. And Michael's great because he just fixes it the next day, and you can carry on with what you were trying to do.
Crazy. I think one thing we don't talk enough about is more and more I feel like the term like Web3 is irrelevant in many ways. As Michael was saying early on, he's not a game developer. Well, it's got a full page of it. I feel like we're coming back to the roots where we're bringing back, of course, we're bringing back the fun. We're bringing back like the why are you playing the game? Not necessarily to stream it, not necessarily like to be the first to have the walkthrough online and have this whole title saying I completed the game, but just like look at the games that's being brought back. Our product is reminiscent of Mario Kart, and after that it's Aguerryo. It's super cool. It's all the games we've been playing. It cycles 25, 30, 40 OGs like us 40 years ago maybe. So it's really cool to see all those industries like game back that we had, because we had some amazing feelings towards it, and memories to it just being brought back to it. And it's bringing back this core feeling of why you're gaming with smaller communities, yes, with means that are really intertwined with towards whom you're playing, especially with the Discord or with X and Twitter. It's really cool to see that up.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. You guys have covered a lot of it. I always say that, I think when we look at Web3, sometimes we get a little distracted by all the shinies and the DeFi and the GameFi, and that's all fun and exciting. But I think that the most exciting part of this is like the fundamental changes in the technology, like being able to figure out how to run a multiplayer game without publisher hosted infrastructure. Like that's a game changer for multiplayer gaming in general, especially when you start talking about big community-based games. You mentioned WoW and RuneScape and a lot of those types of games that are all about your guilds and your clans and your tribes. And that's something I think Web3 does really well. So I think, for me, maybe the thing that we need to talk more about is like the actual technical innovation and potential of Web3, not just the fun stuff, which is, I say fun, not just the shiny stuff, right? There's a difference. Not just the shiny stuff when it comes to like the speculation part of it, but also that community building that is inherent to gaming. And also like the fundamental technological infrastructure changes that we're making. So I think that's probably the way that I'm going to go out. I'm a tech junkie anyway, and I'm about to beat Justin's score here. So I think this is the perfect time for us to sign out. Hold on, I'm going to capture this one. We'll see. I think it's going to go over, and if this goes over, that's where we're going to end.
Is this live or
yes,
is it recorded? Wow, congrats!
This is live. I'm doing this live. All right, I beat Justin's score.
Wow!
I'm going to have a late night tonight trying to rebeat that.
Oh, congrats! That's so cool.
So awesome. Well, thank you all for joining. This has been fabulous. I'm so grateful for you guys in the Hedera community. You guys are an inspiration to me. Michael, you blew me away 2 weekends ago with all the stuff that you did. Phil and Justin, obviously, once I found your game, I fell in love with it. So I'm going to be hitting those Wednesday races as frequently as I can. So I encourage everybody to connect with everybody who's been on our panel today. All of our guests, thank you so much for joining. And then if you're interested in joining the HBAR Foundry, you can actually go here. Let me go and just pull it up here, and hopefully I don't die in the process. But HBARFoundry.com. You can go to the HBARFoundry.com website. You can see we've got a calendar of events here. You can see this town hall where you can actually see it. You can join the Foundry by just submitting your name, email, and a message saying, hey, I want to join the Foundry. And in this way, you can participate in the community building of Hedera. We're developers, we're business builders, we're marketers that all come together to figure out how to navigate this Hedera ecosystem. We'd love to have you all there. Again, thank you so much for joining us on this town hall. And engage with us. Join us on X. You can watch our history of videos here as well. And then reach out to our team members. We've got tons of team members and everybody's happy to engage. Reach out to us, participate. Let's grow this ecosystem. And thank you very much.